Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Washington Outsider Report on the Coalition Radio. With you today, as usual, it's Irina Zuckerman. I'm the editor-in-chief of the Washington Outsider, and our special guest today is Nizar Zakka, former Iran hostage. He is currently involved in several initiatives, including a major communications initiative in Washington, as well as in efforts to assist hostages around the world. And he is actually now in Vienna. He has joined a hunger strike to draw attention to the plight of political hostages in Iran, as the Vienna talks negotiating an attempt to return to the nuclear deal are progressing or not, depending on how you look at it in Europe. Mr. Zakka, thank you so much for joining us today. This is a remarkable effort and deserves a great deal of publicity and attention, and I'm hoping that the program will help draw viewers who can learn about your efforts. But before we get into this current initiative, could you share a little bit about your background and how you ended up in this position to begin with for our audiences?
Hello, thank you for having me. I am Nizar Zakka. I am born in Lebanon, and at the age of 16, I went to the US to a military school, and then I went to University of Texas, and then I went to work in Houston, and then I started working in the technology sector. I was working in the technology sector in Boise, all around the US. Then I went back to Lebanon and an organization that will help bridge the divide between different generations with the technology. So I spent the 90s helping the communities to get connected, years 90s and 2000s. And I have been all over the Middle East. We believe technology can help and will give access to information. So we were trying to do that. And then with the introduction of social media, we start getting the freedom of expression. And this is what I was start working with, also very closely with the donor communities such as USAID, UNDP, State Department, and others. And I became the head of the Arab Information Technology Organization that group all the Arab private sector. And then I became head of the vice chairman of the World Technology Organization that had all the technology companies in the world. And at the same time, I became the chairman of the public policy, the global public policy for technology. So I had a different goals, and over the years progressing slowly in order to reach the top positions in the technology, public policy, and in general about internet freedom. I worked a lot about internet freedom and the development of the internet in our part of the world. And all around the world, I worked in Pakistan, in India, in Afghanistan, in Dominican Republic, everywhere, in order to help communities get connected. And in the years 2010, 12, 13, 14, I was invited a few times to Iran as a vice chairman of the World Information Technology Organization. So I went to Iran and help them get connected and to help they have a very large community, young generation, very highly educated, that they were really, really eager for the technology. So I went there and it was really good. The momentum was really good. And then in 2015, I was invited, official invitation by the vice president. In this time, I was a legal permanent resident in Washington, D.C. I was living in Washington. And I was invited to Iran to speak at a conference for women empowerment and the role of women in the sustainable goals, global sustainable goals. The role. I went there to speak at a conference sponsored by the UN. I was invited by the vice president of Iran to go there. I went. I was speaking. It was in 2015, signing the nuclear deal. So it was really, everybody was super excited in Iran about technology, about the openness, about there was such a momentum, and also from all our members, companies, technology companies, they were also eager to go to Iran because they believe that it's a very important market and has a big potential and can be a really a service center for Asia. So everything was like shiny. Uh, but obviously, the Iranian at that time, so IRGC, Revolutionary Guard, had a different objective. They were worried that openness will create the destruction of the Islamic state that they created, because they believe that by keeping everybody closed and keeping the technology companies away from Iran will keep them having a stronger grip over the government. And that's what happened. I spoke at the conference. On my way back to the airport, a car stopped by, blocked my road, blindfolded me, threw me in a car, put me in a room, 2 meter by 4 meter. I don't know. I don't speak Farsi. I don't body over there. And they told me at that time, the most important, they told me that we took your passport and somebody took your passport and traveled to to Lebanon with passport. So everybody think that you are in Lebanon. So nobody is going to ask for you. So you are here and we are controlling you. So I asked them, who are you? They don't tell me. I didn't know if they were ISIS or whatever, because I was blindfolded in a room, and they kept me months after months after months in this room. And then my only defense was going on a hunger strike. So the first time I went on a 14-day hunger strike, I was going to die. And then bringing me people like a lawyer to talk to. And then I stayed 18 months in the place by the Revolutionary Guard at prison. It's called 2A. And after the 2A, after going into this A, where I am always blindfolded for 18 months, then they take me to another place where it's public for the political prisoners, that it's overcrowded. So they take from blindfolded solitary confinement to overcrowded. And I spent 4 years over there. I don't know what happened. I don't know what I did. They charged me of being an American spy, but I told them, just tell me what I did. So if you tell me the crime, at least I will be happy. I will think that I will feel that I have done something. So I am being punished. I'm suffering so much. And definitely, they told me, we don't know what you did. We think you were going to do something. I said, well, thank you for telling me what I was gonna to do in the future, but I haven't done anything, and I will not do anything. I am a person who has never got a traffic ticket in my life. Just to get never got a traffic, not a jaywalk or anything. I am a very law-abiding person, and that's what happened to me. And then I spent 4 years, and then I was released due to some effort by President Trump at the time to exchange. He requested from the Iranian to do good gesture by releasing one person. So the Iranian felt that the best way to release me, because they will look like doing a good gesture to Lebanon, because, as you know, they control Lebanon. And so they did that. And then Rouhani spoke that now on TV. He said, we did a good gesture for the US. Now the US do a good gesture. And in fact, they released the niece of Khamenei She was arrested in Australia and expedited to the US, and they released her, and it was a swap. This is what happened to me. And since I went out, I I was able to identify that there is a big gap between what happening on the inside, what happens outside. A lot of the pain when you are hostage somewhere, it comes from the outside. It's a lot from the inside, but also from the outside by not understanding or not protecting the belongings, values, life of hostage, or treating him as he's never coming back. So when I came out and I saw what happened, I felt like it's my duty to help other hostages and make sure that these hostages will be protected, and explain to their families on the outside exactly what they want, because there is this also something that governments like. They like the families to stay quiet, and a hostage, when the hostage takers, the best, they give you every day the impression that nobody is asking about you, that you're forgotten, you are no one. They will give you a complete depression, demoralization, everything. So what I wanted to explain to the family is that it's so important for a hostage to know that there is somebody asking for him, even if he knows that the TV is talking or anybody is talking about him, or even there is a tweet about him, or there is anything. It's so important. It is valuable for a hostage to know that people are asking about him. And this is what I'm trying to explain to the families. And it had never hurt, by family speaking up, never hurted any hostage. And only governments would like to keep it quiet, so they will not be pressured to do anything. And the hostage taker also, they don't care, because they are putting a person in cell. So who is suffering is this life of a person getting completely destroyed. So this is in general. So after that, so I started an organization with my friend and colleagues who were former hostages, called Hostage Aid Worldwide. At first, before I did that, we took all the former hostages to the UNGA in New York in 2019, and we created Family Alliance. So to speak one voice around the world to the Security Council members, to explain to them what we want, what is the problems, and all this. And then after that, this hostage Family Alliance was changed into Hostage Aid. At Hostage Aid, we bring into our board. We started. In fact, we founded this. In fact, Barry Rosen. Barry Rosen is one of the oldest hostages. He was taken in Iran at the U.S. Embassy in Tehran in 1979. He was the press attaché at the embassy at that time. He was taken hostage, and therefore it was very important that he is joining us. And then you see other, and we found other members, people who were taken in Alan Gross. He was taken in Cuba. Other people were taken in Lebanon. Other people were taken in different countries around the world. And then you will see in Syria, we had hostages from Syria, we had hostages from Afghanistan. And you see that this is becoming, because of Iran, and especially it's very important to say, because of the Revolutionary Guard of Iran, which started this business model in 1979, so that it became a profitable business for them. That's why they keep on doing it. That's why they started in 1979. They made a win out of taking hostage in 1979, and therefore they're doing it now regularly. Every time they take more, and they negotiate with different countries, each country separately, and getting the best out of each country. And what we are now, we're saying we have to address all countries. We have to face Iran together and make sure that any actions that Iran will do will be punished by all the countries. It cannot play us. We don't want the Revolutionary Guard to play each country on its own. So we tried to do that, and we are getting successful. And now, and later, I personally was left behind when the JCPOA was signed, when the nuclear deal in 2015 was signed, I was left behind. So for me, it was very important to make sure that in case a new agreement is signed, nobody will be left behind. And that's why we came here, me and Barry Rosen, who was hostage in 1979, and we made it very clear that we went on hunger strike in Vienna to tell we do not accept to have any agreement signed before hostages release, because we believe first, how can you negotiate a peace and you have hostages? And then we don't want to have, and then you should, if Iran is not ready to release all hostages before signing, we're gonna keep them, we're gonna leave hostages behind, and this is completely against the values of this great nation of the United States. This country was formed and based on the values of not leaving anyone behind. How can we now sign an agreement and leave American hostages behind? And this is why we are working together, and we were very successful with the special U.S. envoy to Iran, Mr. Robert Malley, who for the first time make an official declaration that the U.S. will not sign any agreement with Iran unless the hostages are all. So here we are today. We went on hunger strike, and we achieved the signature. And now we're gonna proceed to make sure we're getting everybody home safe as soon as possible. It's such a tragedy every time you hear about one hostage, and they are suffering, and the Iranians are playing them. They deal with hostages exactly like they deal with a Persian carpet. It takes years. They are not in a hurry. They take their time. Persian carpet take 40 years, 20 years to do. And this is what they do with the hostages. They keep them, let them stay, let them rot. And that's what's so sad. I hope I told you.
What you're doing is absolutely amazing, and frankly, anyone who can go on a hunger strike even once has my full admiration, because personally, I don't think I'd ever be able to do that, no matter what the cause or the issue, but that's just me. I wanted to ask you a couple of questions. First of all, while you were still in Iran, while you were still in prison, there was an initiative in US Congress to try to impose penalties on Iran, specifically for hostage taking. Unfortunately, at the time, that initiative did not pass. Do you know if there is a similar effort now being attempted again through the legislature? And if so, what's the status of that?
Two things happened very important that we worked with Congressman Deutsch and Chairman Deutsch. He created a bipartisan hostage committee, caucus, whatever, for hostages, and this is with Congressman French. It's a bipartisan and it's very good. And their objective is they're advancing different regulation to make sure that hostages, they advanced the Levinson Act, the longest ever held hostage in the history of the United States is Robert Levinson. He has been held, I believe he's hostage since 2000. He has been like almost 15 years hostage. And no, we haven't received anything. They declared him dead, but we don't have proof that he. So anyway, there is a Levinson Act that has been that will condemn and will sanction every single person who is involved in the hostage-taking act, which is very important, because also the people that are involved, what we were able to develop at Hostage Aid is how this business model is done. There is 4 stages. The first stage, they try to find a victim, a person to kidnap. Second phase, they try to make some sort of trial, which is a fake trial, sham trial, and only for to justify what the crime they are committing. Then they start doing the marketing. The marketing is the hostage takers start promoting the victim, making videos, sending this, because this is the marketing part. And the final part, the fourth part, is the part where is the transaction. That where they get the money or they get concessions, political gain or whatever. So these four stages, what we try to do, we try to divide these four, because each stage of this four, there is different people in charge of. Okay, so and then we would try to sanction each people of each section, and this is what we have been working. And there is a Magnitsky Act, also that there is a lot of that. It's very possible to sanction people in this, because it has a lot of human right violations, and which apply about taking.
True, but one thing that the State Department officials told me is that the Magnitsky Act is rarely applied directly to Iran because there are other human rights actions related to that, and also because the Magnitsky Act is specific to human rights defenders and to corruption. So if someone is taken who is not actually a political activist, then it kind of does not apply in general. And with Iran specifically, that's why that the Levinson Act is such a good idea, because it's specific to Iran and to hostage taking. I understand that there's been a number of similar initiatives that were more successful with other countries. I think with North Korea, they managed to pass legislation after the case of Atta Wamba
Yes.
ended very tragically, unfortunately.
What happened, I agree with you, but if you look how the Magnitsky Act was used in the UK, currently we have sanctioned around 20 people in Iran that are connected to hostage taking. What is important in this, that it needs a lot of work, a lot of documentation. It's not like something like that.
Mhm.
And what in the UK, we had a lot of NGOs who were willing to invest time and resources in order to complete this file, to prove that what they did, what these people did and committed, and get the evidence. And I hope in the US, what the next step we're trying to move all these people who did that, who have been sanctioned in the UK, to get them sanctioned in the US as well under the same act. And this is important. We are trying to do the long shot, but doing our best. Meanwhile, definitely, if there is legislation that is much more straightforward, what we are trying to do in another way, one of the things that we are not able to get, we are fighting with, like we're not fighting, we are trying to advocate as much as we can, is a snapback. Tomorrow they are signing agreement with Iran, maybe they sign agreement with Iran. Now, if they agreement and if they release all the hostages, they sign the agreement, and after that, the Iran take again hostages. What will happen? We want to say that these are sanctions that were removed because of these agreements. If any hostage is taken, this has to come back. These sanctions has to come back. It's called a snapback, and we are trying so hard to get the administration to admit, but they believe that Iran will not. So we are trying to find a compromise where we make sure that Iran will stop this business model, because they have been doing it for 40 years, the same exact thing, and they are winning, doing it perfectly. They will become expert in it. And tell you the truth, the Western world is amateur when it's facing the Iranian hostage taking machine.
You mentioned the case of Robert Levinson. This is something that I've been personally interested in for a very long time. Unfortunately, there seems to have been no progress whatsoever made in years. Is there, if he is in fact deceased, is there a reason why Iran would not admit to that and at least to release his body? And if he's still alive, why would they not use it to try to gain concessions?
It's a very, very weird story. It's some people say I have been there. I asked a lot of people. I heard that he is like a lot of things, and at least what we decided, like the administration, the previous administration with Robert O'Brien, they decided, they said that they have enough evidence that he died, and they and it was especially for the family. It was good. It was like trying to ease some of the pain. But I think we agreed that we cannot say he died until they bring the body. Unless they bring a DNA that can prove that he's dead, it doesn't make sense. So it's a very difficult case. I know the daughter. I believe you know them as well, and the son working. They're superb people. Duke is a great guy. Sarah, the daughter, is a wonderful. He has a lot. They are a very big family. They're originally from Florida, and they're really, really great.
Since then, unfortunately,
We talk about hostage family. Every single hostage family, we became understanding each other. Because all what we every case is such a pain. To every time we hear it, it's a pain because it's the same suffering everybody is taking. Kids are growing without a dad. They don't know what's a dad. And even when I was in prison, I just wanted people. When I was also, I want people to tell my sons, I am not a criminal. I am not someone who taking drugs somewhere, and I was taken hostage. I was ahead. So it's a very hard thing, and the community sometimes starts saying spy. He's a spy or what, because they like this stuff. But that's so painful, and unless we stand together and try to create some awareness, like we did in Vienna. This the whole it will be hard to explain.
I can't imagine why, given Iran's records, anyone could possibly think that people who are being abducted and deprived of their rights are spies. But the fact that that's even an issue is in itself a huge, raises a lot of questions about the government's handling of these cases, that such a thought can even occur to anybody, um, given how all of these cases have ended, and no one, not one of them, have been an actual spy, with the exception of Levinson, who was an FBI special agent and who was there on a specific mission from the agency. But even that was not espionage. He was there to interview somebody. So
Cracking cigarettes or something, or whatever.
yeah, it was a completely ridiculous mission. He should not have been gone alone to begin with. But regardless of that, he was not there in any capacity that would have allowed this sort of treatment, and certainly not without engagement in what normally happens in such cases. It's
Definitely.
so since all of these events, there's been a number of other US based hostages, some US citizens, other permanent residents. One of them, one of the cases that I know about is an Iranian, and his daughter has campaigned to bring his case to the attention of the US government, and took a while before they even publicly admitted that there was anything going on. What is the status of that particular case?
Which one?
There is an Iranian permanent resident in the US, an activist who was abducted in Dubai, and his daughter is in the US.
Jamshid. Yeah. He is from California. It's a case. It's a very. That's why it's cases like this. That's why where we come, and that's what really get us very angry, because we don't know where he was abducted, because Dubai is UAE is not responding to the family. He's a German. He is a US LPR, and he disappeared. And some people say he disappeared in Dubai. Some people say in Oman. Okay, so we sent this guy, this person go into Dubai in order to track it, because also it's a responsibility of the UAE in case he disappeared in the UAE, and nobody is responding. And this is what's sad, that the government is not helping. The US government is not helping. Is the German government is not helping. I was talking to the daughter Gazelle a few days ago, and we were talking all the details. And this is really sad that what's happening. I was talking to the lawyer as well, and I believe we're gonna take a new approach very soon, and to be a little more aggressive to make sure that we get this. First, we need the answers. Once we have the answers, we can proceed, because so far this person was taken from somewhere around the world and taken to Iran. First, to see where he was taken from. Once we know that, then we can deal with it, because if he went to Iran arrested him, then we have a different issue. We have to deal with it in a different way. If this person was in UAE and he was kidnapped, it's a kidnapping. The UN has to deal. UAE has to deal. It's a violation. And the US has to deal with it. So it's a much bigger issue. So I hope we do something, and we're gonna do something in the next few days. We're planning to do that. Funny that you mentioned this case specifically, but we're planning to. We were, in fact, I believe 2 days ago, we were talking about specifically.
I've been following this case from the very beginning, and to me, in the beginning, it seemed pretty clear cut. Somebody, because this is not the first time Iranian or people of Iranian origin who moved to other countries, or who were dual nationals, were abducted from third countries, from Iraq, from Turkey, from UAE. It's happened before. I've known activists from various backgrounds who received threats of abduction, who had attempted abductions from third countries where they were lured in, or where they were just staying or doing some other business, or had families, and where Iran was active. But this the first time where it doesn't seem clear that he was actually in UAE to begin with, and that to me seems very strange.
Yes, that's a fact. That's what we want to find out. And yes, what you're saying about Iran has this business of kidnapping people and taking them. And then I know, this journalist Zam was taken and executed in Iran. And there is a guy, nobody mentioned him. I was one day in Iran. There's a guy come who speak with a Lebanese accent. So I him, he told me I was in Beirut studying, and they came and they took me, kidnapped me from my home, got me on a plane, and I see myself in a prison here, and his name is Mahmoud Musawi Majd, and after a few months they execute. So they are very expert in this, and they do it, and that's why we have to act quickly. Jamshid, we have to act quickly. I don't want to create any. I don't want to get anybody scared, but I think he deserves our attention.
So in Jamshid's case, this is what I'm trying to understand. What exactly, where was he going? That it's not clear whether he was in Oman or UAE, or whether he went to Iran directly. What were the circumstances of his leaving the US, or and entering and going somewhere? Where was he? What was his destination, and what was he planning on doing before he disappeared?
I talked to the family. They don't have this information, or maybe they have it. They don't want to talk about it. It's up to we don't want to pressure, but I know one thing, that they don't know if he was in Turkey, or he was in Oman, or he was in UAE. But they're for sure that he wasn't in Iran, because anyway, I don't think he would go to Iran. But anyway, we still need to ask these three countries to prove to us, at least to send us, that this person did not go into their territories. We know that. So we will know what's going on.
Based on what you're telling me, and this is new to me, because again, I thought that he just went to UAE for business for whatever reason and was just abducted. What you're telling me sounds like he was in contact with somebody for whatever reason, and he may have been lured into another country that he had no specific plan of going to originally, that he did not have, you know, it sounds like there may have been a plot, a setup to get him to a country where he could have been taken from, based on
Yes.
what you're telling me. And this may be the reason why the family is reluctant to discuss it, because in one case, there was a case of Ahwazi organization leader who was based in Europe, who was going to Jordan, stopped by in Turkey, was abducted by Iranians and whisked away to Iran. He was essentially honey trapped. He was, there was a woman agent who had engaged in correspondence with him and brought him to Turkey, had him come to Turkey, where he was seen with her, and where he was basically thrown into a van and taken over the border with Turkey's silence. We know that RGC is active in Turkey specifically. Sounds
Yes.
to me like something like that, maybe not a honey trap, maybe a business transaction or whatever else, some activist meeting, who knows. But it sounds to me like the fact that his destination was unknown was that he was misled, deceived into going to a place he would not have normally gone. And
That's fine. That might happen. That probably happened. But at least we need to know specifically where, like just the details, which country, where he was, where to where. There is a lot of that, it's a lot of unknown. And I believe it's not details that cannot be found. We should find it, because he has to go through hotel, he has to go through airport. It has some details we need to find. He departed from where. It's easy to find this part.
But wouldn't the FBI or some law enforcement agency
That's why
computers?
Perfect. Sorry for interrupting you. That's what I am trying to get the FBI fusion cell, which is related for the hostages, as that deal with terrorist organization, is the cell that deal with ISIS. And I think I'm gonna try, if they accept, I'm gonna approach them to see if they can find at least few details, because this is something like this falls under kidnapping, under human trafficking, under every single crime in the book. This falls under.
But wait, let me get this straight. Once his disappearance was announced to the U.S. authorities by the family, what happened? I am sure some form of investigation was opened, and I'm sure his personal devices, whatever was left in the U.S., were taken. Did they not look at the internet history of his, ticket ordering? How is it possible that there's no information has been released to this day, and they claim not to know anything? That to me doesn't make any sense.
Okay, I think excuse me. I think that according to what I heard, that the phone was showing he went to Dubai, Oman.
Mm-hmm. But no history of tickets were recovered. I mean, didn't he use his credit card or something to order tickets to go to wherever he was going? And wasn't there an airline? Weren't airlines with him present disclose that information to the authorities when he entered the airport, wherever he did and wherever he landed? Wouldn't the airlines have that information?
I don't know. Yes, that's what we need to know. We need to find this, because it's easy to find. That's what might be over the next few days or few weeks. I will be doing that. I will be working with the lawyers on getting that. And I just learned that the district attorney in California is also interested in the case.
I find it dumbfounding. This happened last year. That since then, the U.S. State Department barely made a statement about this issue. There's been no information in the media about this. There's been a slew of articles from foreign publications, a Shark and a couple of other ones, about this story, but I have not seen
Yeah.
U.S. media coverage about this.
No, but also Germany. He has a German citizenship, and that's why also they did not do anything. It's so weird. That's why I am jumping into this because someone has to do something. It's not fair to the family. It's not fair, and that's what we're gonna do. That's what we're working on that as we speak.
And was he in Germany anytime in recently before his disappearance from the U.S.? Had he traveled there in to
I have no idea. I'm gonna check with the family and with the lawyers. I am now in Vienna. Scheduled. I scheduled with the lawyers to meet upon my return tomorrow to Washington. I'm gonna meet with them.
the
The
whole
lawyer
the whole
Washington.
situation makes no sense. I understand why U.S. government would play down cases in general in light of the attempted negotiations with Iran. What makes
Yeah,
less sense is um, not release any information at all or pretend that nothing happened in hopes that everyone will simply forget about it. And meanwhile, people who don't know that these cases are happening are in danger. Their lives are in danger because people can travel somewhere, not take due care, and end up being abducted from wherever.
maybe we have to cooperate on this and create the awareness and try to help this family together because that's very important.
What you're telling me reminds me of another seemingly unrelated fact pattern related to this issue. As you know, Shui Wang's case with Princeton University,
You know,
where
the,
Princeton had some sort of a financial arrangement with Iranian donors, and they were encouraging people to travel even despite obvious risks. And when he was already abducted, they covered it up in whatever ways they could. It sounds to me very similar to Jamshid's case in many ways.
oh no, oh no, no. No, Chiwe case is much worse, much worse. It's much straightforward, a crime from all parties on and his family. Chiwe, I lived with Chiwe 3 years, and now he suffered so much because of injustice by the school and everything. Chiwe was unfairly, and he's a smart, kind guy, and now get justice.
Uh,
And we're going to make sure that what is rightful justice will take place. That's all what we want for Chile, and it will happen. Irina, I have to go. I have dinner, and I am late for it.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Actually, wanted to conclude on a somewhat less depressing note, and before you leave, I wanted to ask you about the status of the technology and communications initiatives that you've been working on. What 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 are these programs, and has there been anything since this matter?
Nothing since I left. Nothing.
That's
I came out. Haven't been into this. I have been focusing on helping hostages. I
mhm,
haven't technology anymore, except I do some programs technology for peace
mhm.
and system to identify where it's going to be violence. I can predict violence through social media monitoring, but I am not expert in this. I am not not anymore techie. I am more into helping using data in order to help hostages and to intercept the hostage business.
The reason why I'm raising this issue is there is another human rights issue related to this, which is Iran's denial of access to internet to
Of
during
course,
protests and
it's definitely a human right violation to deprive people from access to freedom of expression. In the internet, it's your freedom of expression, and then they when deprive you from the internet, they're depriving you from your normal freedom. It's like today the internet is like water, and like everything, and then it's crazy. It's the basics that they are. It's a regime that is oppressive regime that need to be, in my opinion, my humble opinion, this regime needs to be changed. But I am no one to. But maybe other people think that this regime can be fixed. So it's up to them. For me, I think they are going nowhere.
No, I don't think the regime can be fixed. I think they have their minds are very dedicated to the Islamic revolution. But the question is what can be done to help the people while the political issues are being resolved in whatever way they're going to be
Thank you so
resolved.
much. I have to go. I'm really stuck. I have Barry Rosen waiting for me in the restaurant for the past 10 minutes. He's gonna leave.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll share the link with you, of course, to the program. I hope to hear more about your efforts in the future, and of course to hear about the progress on these important cases and on the initiatives that you mentioned. This was the Washington Outsider Report on the Coalition Radio. With you, we had Nizar Zakka, and of course, I will see you all next week, same time at 9 p.m. Tuesday. Thank you very much for joining us.